Jim, I am so happy to meet you. I have heard about you through so many people that I admire who admire you. And so that's always a really good vote for the person. I'm looking forward to this conversation because what you've been doing with your life and traversing, the conversations and the true depth of how we can get inside of our real truth and our subconscious mind and bend it so that we can have more access to the life we want to experience. It's just, what other conversation should we be having? Like, it's the most exciting conversation. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invite. I'm thrilled to be here. And I was doing some research for our time together, and you had mentioned some people, and I looked at people that you follow and that are connected to me. And you may or you may not know these people: Mel Abraham, Carrie Green, James Wedmore, Gary Zukav, Lisa Carpenter, Emma Dunwoody, Nikki Samayago, Brandon Lucero, Amber McHugh, and Kajabi. I've coached every one of these people. So you probably know Gary, right?
I love Gary. He brings tears to my eyes. Yes. And yeah, I've heard about you from so many beautiful souls. And so I love that you did that research, by the way. I don't think anyone's ever said to me, here's who we know in common. And it's so beautiful to see the threads of how we are connected. And I even
Yeah.
love that you did that so that my audience, because my audience knows many of those people and has a lot of love for those people. So that's really a beautiful place to start. Can we dive
Sure.
into, I want to hear a little bit about your personal journey and how you came upon the well of all of this personal development and understanding that where you wanted to put your focus was working with the subconscious mind. Like, what was your own personal journey that led you to knowing that that would be your path?
Great question. I'm going to answer a way that I normally don't. Normally, I just make it succinct and more 3D, because a lot of podcasts I'm on are more 3D oriented. And you know what I mean by 3D, right?
Yes, of course.
Physical ego. Okay. So 50% of well, 90% of my journey is literally written in the stars, but I didn't know it many years ago. I'm going to back up though. Out of college, I was chasing money, all the things that many 3D egos do. And I was out of college in the late 80s, and that was the the MO back then was money, make a lot of money. The movie Wall Street was out, and people were
Oh,
in the
yeah.
greed. Yeah, all that. And I started working with an entrepreneur who turned out to be a con man. And I had money out of college, and he's been in prison twice after I left working with him. Yeah, he went to for the largest Ponzi scheme in Texas. Now, I didn't know all that, but he got my money too. So I was upside down broke, digging in the past. We're going to talk about abundance. And this is something that I know about because I've lived it. I grew up poor in Texas, farm boy. And I remember when I was probably 22 or 23, digging in the back seat of my car for change so I could buy a can of tuna and the box of macaroni and cheese for dinner. Many of us have been there, but I'm like, how do people come back from this? And I heard on the radio, that's what we listened to back then, about a former Texas governor who went bankrupt in his 70s. And I'm like, how do you come back in your 70s? So we started listening to a lot of motivational stuff: Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, and the motivators. And I did that for a few years, and I'm like, there's got to be more. This sounds good, but I'm not getting the change. I don't feel any better. And then I got that hit. That was a hit for you. There's something there for you
Yeah.
you want to explore. Okay. I
I,
wasn't
lo- I
feeling it.
love you. Oh my God. I love spending time with you. I'm already like, I so see the magic. Okay, keep going.
Oh, well, it's going to be a good call with both of us together, I think. And mainly, hopefully, people listening get a lot of benefit from our stories or our journeys to go to the next level in life.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, I need more. This all sounds good and I can regurgitate it and repeat it, but I'm not being it, meaning I'm not feeling it. And money
Yeah.
definitely was not changing. I mean, I kid you not, 5,000 books on money. Everybody from Wayne Dyer to everyone. And I could read the books, and this is the crux of everything I do. I could read the books, but it was all information, but I couldn't demonstrate the information. Why am I not? I know all this about money, but I'm not making money. I'm not attracting money. So then I got involved in neurolinguistics, NLP, and my mentor, her mentor was Tony Robbins. She's the one who taught Tony NLP back in the 80s. So she
Hmm.
taught, I'm sorry.
I said, wow,
Yeah, yeah.
that's so cool.
And she learned from Bandler and Grinder, the co-developers. So I worked with her for about a decade. She took me under her wing. She's in her late 80s now. But she took me under her wing back in the early 90s and started working with me. And then I got involved in hypnosis. And then in the late 90s, I worked at the Hypnosis Institute in New York City because I'm thinking and I started learning it doesn't matter what I analytically think that I want. That's left brain prefrontal cortex. What matters is what my frequency and vibration is, spiritual language. But what matters, that comes from my identity, how I see myself at a subconscious level. Now, all these years, I saw myself as the poor kid from little bitty Texas town. We can't afford, we don't have, we're not like that. Rich people have that, we're not rich. We don't know how we're going to pay for that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Until I shifted what I call my identity at a subconscious level, I chased money forever. And the more I chased, the more I ran it off. And once I shifted that, that's when I started attracting money. Now I said 90-10. That's 10% of the journey. The other 90% is when I was 32, I met my mother. I was adopted, and my adopted mother said when I was 25, she goes, "I want to introduce you to your biological mother." I resisted for 5 years. I'm like, I have no desire. I was close to my adoptive mother. Well, I broke down and met my adoptive mother when I was 31, which is like 30 years ago. And the first night we were having dinner that I met her, she said to me, she goes, "Your brother-in-law is a shaman." And she goes, if you've ever heard of the teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda, your brother-in-law, is the actual student who worked with Don Juan, who sold the stories to Castaneda. So I have been literally working with this shaman now, my brother-in-law, for 30 years. And that's all about evolution and growth spiritually, shedding the ego, shedding the personality, which, by the way, I'm still working on, and I will be working on until I leave the planet. But he's the one who really taught me about healing, health, wellness, and abundance. We'll probably go here. I pretty much kicked the bucket in 2020, and I'm perfectly fine today, but he showed me how to heal. He showed me and taught me how I had to be to make wealth and abundance in life, and then how to use it. Sorry for being so long-winded, but I knew that would resonate with a lot of people.
I mean, there's nothing at all to be sorry about because that was really so magnificent. And at the end, it brought tears to my eyes. What a wild, gorgeous, it is a movie. It's like a movie that you went on this soul curriculum, and by having the courage to meet your mother,
Yeah.
there was other piece of the puzzle that was like there on the treasure map, right? On the other side of that. And then you've now had these incredibly powerful, different dual sort of curriculums that you've like woven together. And there were so many things you said that I would want to like highlight if I was reading it, that there is go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Well, with my brother-in-law, the other part of the equation is that being a shaman, we used to do ceremonies and power spots on the planet. My family has been inside Teotihuacan for 2 nights, unsupervised, allowed by the president of Mexico. My family with my brother-in-law has been inside Cheops for 2 nights, unsupervised. We've done ceremony at Machu Picchu, Isla del Sol, Island of the Sun, Haleakala, Chaco Canyon. So it's the energies and the frequencies that I've been in. And I bring those energies and all those years of beingness into the work that I do today because you and I do the same work. Our objective is to a high tide raises all ships. What can we do to make the world a better place? So I look at my training because when doctors don't know why, in 2020, I had both a stroke and heart failure in 2020 and I kicked the bucket. And when I got out of the hospital, I had the heart failure first. 6 months later, I want to mention this. I had the heart failure first. And my brother-in-law showed me how to heal. And 6 months later, 5.5 months later, I was sitting at his house for dinner, and I was said, well, I had heart failure. And I was just kind of kidding. And he was very serious. He goes, get over that. You're healed from that. So about 2 weeks later, I had a stroke. And I was in the hospital. They did all the testing again. And the neurologist said, I thought you said you had heart failure. And I said, I did. And he goes, your heart, according to all the testing we've done, is stronger than most people's hearts. And so the whole point is for people listening, we can heal anything when we tap into consciousness and divine energy. So I kind of lost my train of thought because I'm going all over the place, and I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that. But
You're not going all over the
uh,
place at all. It's all stacking up together to make one beautiful geometric pattern. It's so beautiful.
well, thank you. So the whole, I guess the final point was is that I in these deeper ceremonies with him, I started learning about resonance and frequency and all these things that we bring to our 3D life, meaning our physical life, to create the health, the wealth, the money, and the abundance and our experience on the planet.
I mean, it's just so juicy. There's so much in what you bring and share, and how generous and how curious you are, and how filled with all these riches that it's like, I can't wait to just dive into as much as we can today.
Sure.
I just want to, I guess, name, one thing that people could go and get is a book that you wrote in 2023 called Subconscious Solution. And that's one place we could right now tap into a little bit and just see if we can just draw out some of that, right? I know that there's literally levels and levels to this, but just to begin the conversation, I think a lot of people have heard a little bit about the subconscious mind at this point, but
Mhm.
they don't really have, let's just start here. They don't really know how to embody or actually work with their subconscious mind so there actually is that change, right? And people at this point, my mom tells me that when she was growing up, the bookstore didn't have any section called self-development. She goes,
Right.
now
Yeah.
the self-development section is like the biggest part of the bookstore. So at this point in history, I think people have a little bit of information and yet still feel as though the way you felt early on in your journey, I might have read these books, or I might have heard the terms NLP, or I might have seen a bumper sticker, but I don't yet have real experience changing the pattern in my mind, changing the story, and changing the identity that I'm walking around with. So just from that point of the subconscious mind, can you give us a little bit of what might help be a bridge for people today, where they could start to understand more of how to really understand that model and how to change what just seems like Groundhog Day? Like they're just going to keep living Groundhog Day because
Yeah.
they don't yet know how to really disrupt and create a new pattern for
Yeah.
real in their
That's a
subconscious
that's
mind.
a beautiful it's a beautiful question. And that number one, you talk about your mom and the personal development industry. That industry is broken for the consumer, but works very well for the information providers. Now, what I mean by that is the information providers, you can go to, and I have not been in years. I live in Sedona. We don't have any bookstores here, but I used to live in Dallas, and you can go into Barnes and Noble, and there's a whole section of personal development. And you might see literally, I don't know, 20, 50, 100 diet books. So people buy all these books from all these authors, from all these diets. Now, the person buying the book is buying it because they have the air quote problem or challenge of being overweight, overeating, whatever it is. So let's slow down there. I'm buying the diet, not me, but a person is or a money book or whatever. They're buying the diet book because they have a problem they're trying to solve. Then the diet book tells you how to solve the problem. What people aren't looking at is what is the identity subconsciously of the person having the problem. So you buy the diet book and it tells you do A, B, C, D, and E. They're all external behaviors, meaning I'm just making this up, but calories in versus calories out. You know, Get rid of the junk food in your house. All these basic exercise, whatever. You read it,
Sure.
you've got a plan, and you're like, oh, okay, I can follow the plan. But what's never factored in here and people don't know, number one, most people aren't even in personal development. And then those that are don't even know what I'm sharing with you now. So I read the book and I'm like, okay, I got a plan of attack for my money or my body or whatever it is. But what's never changed is the identity of the person reading the content. That's why I call it content versus context. I can read a book all day long about money, health, wellness, whatever. It's content. But if my context is broke or overweight or whatever I read, my brain is automatically going to filter it out because it's inconsistent with my subconscious identity. Whatever we are at the identity level is who we be and what we do naturally. A great example for 70% of your listeners, because many don't work with you, but they listen, and kudos for that, is they're struggling with money, which is probably a reason people seek you out. They resonate with your frequency and vibration, but they struggle with money. And they gather good content, and they've read all the Wayne Dyer books and Deepak Chopra, and they've read all the books and the money books by, I don't know, Grant Cardone and all these people. And it sounds good on paper, but they can't integrate it. And if they can't integrate it, what the content is of no value. So we have to shift at a core identity level. Now let's go deeper. We can
I just
talk
have
about,
to say, I have to
sure.
say this to you. I've done over 1,000 episodes. That is, without question, possibly one of the most brilliant things that has ever been shared on this show. I am so grateful to you that you just said that. I am
Thank you.
so profoundly moved by what you just said. It makes so much sense. I mean, we've had Deepak Chopra here, John Kabat-Zinn, Tony Robbins. These are incredible people. They've mastered their work. And underneath it, what needs to be shared is what you just said in order
Yeah.
to be the glue that is so brilliant. I mean, all we do is have people on who wrote books and we send people the books and people read the books. And then I've always said, why is it that people just keep reading the books and they're reading the books and they just
Yeah.
don't necessarily have the transformation? And what you just synthesized in 3 minutes is so profound. And you're the first person who's ever said that. And it's so generous that you said that. That is a quantum leap, what you just said. Okay, keep going.
Thank you. I was reading, and I follow you on Instagram. I was reading your Instagram this morning, just prepping for our time, just seeing where,
Nice.
I'm sure that you're a good interviewer. No question. You've done this for a long time. But there have been times I've had to carry interviews when, you've probably been there when the interviewer gets stuck or whatever, you've got to pull things. And you had a passage in there by the Kabbalah, and it was about abundance. And abundance is not external, which is what people try to do. Abundance
Right.
is alignment. Now, back to where we're going here, be, do, have. I learned this 15 years ago. You must be before you can do, before you can have. So I must be rich in my mind before I can do things to have the money. Most
Mm,
people have it backwards. They want, have, do, be. If I have or I had the money, to do things like run
mm,
Facebook ads or hire a VA or hire a podcast team, then I could be successful. It's a backward strategy because if you don't have right now, you won't do and then you won't be. So because you don't have, you keep not having, which means you keep not doing, which means you keep not being successful. We got to reverse that. Let's dive even deeper. I just recognized to myself, I'm a diver. That's what I do. I dive deep and I go beyond. And it never dawned on me till just now, after all these years, is I look at what people put out and I go underneath. I dive deeper. So for be to have, are we human beings or human doings? We're human
mm,
beings. But here's the thing. Most people become
mm.
human doings. Let me do to make money. Now I'm going to be poor at my identity level, but let me do things. We see this in the economy right now. because there are a lot of people struggling in the economy. So what's their natural inclination? Because they've learned this through generations. Let me do things to make money, but they're still poor in their mind. So whatever they do doesn't work. But let's go deeper to being. What does it mean to be? We don't know how to be. Let me go even deeper than that. You've heard in our industry, you've heard many people say, we are not human beings first, we are spiritual beings. Well, the problem with that is that many spiritual beings are running away from organized religion. It doesn't work for them. Organized religion is dogma, but many people take their spirituality and also make it dogma, which is a religion. So their spirituality, whether it be Buddhism or Kabbalah or whatever, is still an organized, well, I guess Buddhism is an organized religion, but Kabbalah, let's say, or Wicca or something, they make that a religion. So where I go to is we're not even spiritual beings because that's a human label. We are cosmic beings, meaning you were somewhere before you got here. You're somewhere, you're going to go somewhere when you leave. Now let's go back to this Kabbalah passage that I've mentioned. Alignment, alignment with who and what. And what does that mean? Well, alignment is when you understand you are an eternal cosmic being having a human experience that you identify with as spiritual or Christian or atheist or whatever, but you always have to go back to source. And that's what we as humans don't know how to do. And when you go to source, you're truly being.
Mm, so beautiful. So beautiful. And everything you just said about the being and the having and the doing and the way that that all works and the way that most people do it backwards, all of that tracks and all makes sense. So thank you for the model of building that out. So you've named the question and you've named that gap, right? Whereas sometimes we're reading books, it's the content, not the context. I love how you said that. And then over here, it's the what do I need to do? But it's really the question we're not asking is who do I need to be? So
Correct.
how does the work you're doing help us to finally then step into the actualizing of the identity? If we're so married to an identity of whatever is in the ego,
Right.
right? Whatever's outside of alignment, how do we switch radio stations from the ego to the being that is genuinely true to our actual essence?
Sure. A couple of places we can go here. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been on vacation?
Yes,
Okay. You ever fly somewhere and rent a car when you're there and drive around and see that?
sure.
Okay.
Yes,
So you go on vacation, you hop on an airplane, you go somewhere, you get your rental car, and you drive around, whether it's Europe or Northern California, you're just driving around. Okay. Now, when the vacation's over, do you drive your rental car home or do you take it back and drop it off and go home?
drop it
You,
back and
you,
go
dro- you drop
home.
it off. That's the human experience. Literally, the bodies are rental cars. We're here on the planet. We incarnated. When you incarnate, you get the body, you get the rental car. You drive the rental car around for 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe 100 years. But when the vacation's over, you literally drop the rental car off and you go home. So back to your question, we see this all the time, meaning you and I, people wanting things. They're wanting to build things, meaning they're wanting to build a life, wanting to build money, wanting to build health. It's the reverse. It's about evolving. It's not about getting things. It's about being something, meaning being aligned with the essence of your soul energy. So, I'll give you an example. I drive, and I've for many years now, different Porsches or Mercedes. I drive a Porsche now. I had a Porsche a couple of, back when I had the heart failure and stroke, I had a Porsche. My brother-in-law was sitting down talking to me. I live in Sedona. You probably have heard of it. It's a small town. And he knew the answer to this. He goes, "So what do you drive?" And I said, "Well, a Porsche." He goes, "If something happens to it, do you take it to Joe Schmo Mechanic in Sedona? Or do you go to the dealership where they've got Porsche certified, trained experts to work on your car? They've got factory training." And I said, "Well, I'm going to take my Porsche to the Porsche dealership." And he goes, then why, when people want money or they're sick, do they go to the mechanic? They should go to the doctor. I mean, they should go to the manufacturer. The manufacturer is the creator. The metaphor makes sense, right? The manufact. So we always go
Sure.
back to the creator. And the creator is not an identity like a Christian God or a Muslim God or an Islamic God, or that's not the creator. The creator is consciousness, which literally is God, because consciousness is all and everything in the universe, physics demonstrated, proven, and we know this is consciousness. Because without consciousness, you and I right now would be dead bags of skin. People listening, without the consciousness, they would be a dead bag of skin. We need the consciousness, which is universal intelligence, to run through us. So it's not about trying to create things. When I work from being, I go to one place: know myself as soul. What does it mean to be? And I explore know myself as soul. Because my soul, Saint Germain said, when humans understand how the universe works, they will cease to believe in miracles. So I've always explored, how does the universe work? And the only way I can know that is to be conscious of my consciousness, to explore that, getting my ego out of the way, which I'm still working on, but connecting with divine mind for me is what Christians would call the kingdom of heaven.
Mhm. For me, it's music, everything you're saying, because it's very much a mirror in many ways, although we use different language, it's very much a
Sure.
mirror of my path. I spent 3 years in Jerusalem after college and then spent many years sort of in the study of Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism. So my software program was changed at the age of 19 to a station of consciousness, right? And this oneness. When people haven't had that experience, right, in whatever
Right,
way they need to have it, they could be listening to you or me and
right.
think to themselves, oh, that's so beautiful. That's so lovely. And good for him, but I don't have the capacity to buy it because my mind is so hardwired into my own language, into what I was taught. And that all feels, they might say, like a leap, right? And so what I'm going to go back to is the illusion of separation. What I'm going to go back to is that I am finite, all of this stuff. So my question is, when somebody loves it and they want to internalize the identity of a being, of a cosmic being, all of the things that you just said, and yet their subconscious programming is very congruent. It runs its program every day. It's very
Right.
consistent and it tells it everything but that. How do they actually change that so that their subconscious mind works with them to understand how to set a new program for their true identity, so they're not hearing you say this and nodding along while meanwhile having a whole subconscious track that will continue to play a very different track?
Okay, I'm going to start backwards and go to the front. So make a note of this in case I forget to bring it back to this, because I'm going to go on a
Okay.
little bit of a spiel here. You are where your attention is. So remind me of that when we come back, in the event I skip over that. You are
I'm
where your
even going to write
attention
it.
is.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So you said many people's minds are hardwired. The mind is not hardwired. The brain is hardwired. The brain is organic. The mind is ethereal. So what most people don't understand, they think the mind is the brain. They are separate. Mind exists outside of the brain. That is consciousness. Scientists cannot find the mind. Makes sense, right? They don't know where the mind is. Um, Okay, now the brain. We talk about habits, and you mentioned the word hardwired because you did use the word habits, and I teach all this in my programs. So habits are organic. They are neural pathways in the brain. So what we do, John Locke said, the British philosopher, we grow up tabula rasa. We come to the planet, blank slates, and then we grow up. And then I was going to say Plato actually said, give me a child until the age of 8, and I will own them for a lifetime. We become what we become conditioned to be as a child. Your parents are abusive, you learn to respond to that as a coping mechanism. Your parents are loving, you learn to respond to that because as babies, we're looking for survival coping mechanisms. So whatever environment we're raised in, we become that. That's why if our parents are Jewish, we're Jewish. If our parents are Democrats, we're Democrats. If our parents are this or that, we are generally this or that. So we learn it. And then we get older. Many people don't know they can change this. So many people fight it. They fight whatever they are, meaning money, whatever. Let's go back to you are where your attention is. So if you're fighting money, where's your attention? It's on not having money. And therefore, the universe says, universe corresponds energetically. You don't have money. That's what you're putting out energetically. We're going to bring a situation where you still don't have money. And then you fight it even more. Let go. Go deeper, meaning know yourself as soul. Now, back to you are where your attention is. Of all the years working with my brother-in-law, I find that to be one of the simplest and most powerful truisms. You are where your attention is. When you're feeling lonely because that's where your attention is. Grandma dies, that no one dies, transitions over. But guess what? You're all sad, but that's where your attention is. So you might be thinking also, I can't wait to go to the Madonna concert tonight, or what? I don't know. I don't even know why I picked Madonna, but I can't wait to go to the concert. And you're all excited. Well, that's where your attention is. So our life is, we have to master our attention, and we are where we are in life because that's where our attention is. Now, to concretize this, where your attention is, Khalil Gibran said, your words are simply drippings from the mind. So, whatever I'm speaking is coming out of my mind. What do we speak? We speak our lives into existence. In the Bible, in the beginning, there was the Word. Now, what is the word most people speak? I am so broke. Money is so hard. People don't like me. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm the F word. I'm so fat. I'm so fat. I'm so fat. We speak our lives into existence. The most powerful thing we can do right here, it won't cost anyone anything, manage the self-talk. Learn to identify and manage the self-talk. When you manage the self-talk, you're managing your attention. When you manage your attention, you change your reality.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful and it makes so much sense. And you didn't even need me to tell you because you brought it back yourself. And I can see why you said that. You are where your attention is for sure. You mentioned, I mean, there's so many powerful things here, so I'm going to skip to something else because
Sure, sure.
there's so many things to cover. You mentioned that you healed your heart, and you
Uh-huh.
mentioned that is like such a staggering, shocking, gorgeous thing that your
And my
doctors
brain. And my
and
brain
your
both. I healed them both.
okay, so let's talk about that. How can we understand that we have the power to heal ourselves? What does that mean and what does that look like?
Can I be candid?
Of course.
Okay. Some people are more touchier than others. Is we one of my students, well, many, but one in particular, said this when she was a guest on my podcast. She's an MD, a very prominent MD. I've had Harvard MDs in my program. And she said, we live in a world of medical mediocrity.
For
Let me go
sure.
back. Yeah, let me go back here. So I used to teach persuasion and influence. And there was this commercial that came on one time, and I'm like, that commercial is brilliant when it comes to marketing. Little boy's sitting on a bed, and he's probably 5 years old, and the violin music comes on, and rain's pattering on the windows in the background. And all the voice says is, Moms, cold and flu season is here. When your little one gets sick, you can depend upon children's Tylenol. Okay, Kathy, what's the first day of cold and flu season?
I don't know. Is it winter? I don't know.
There's not one. There's not
Okay.
one.
I was like, I'm like, I don't know the answer.
Okay, there's not one. So what happens though? Are you a mom?
Yeah, three. These are my kids. Yeah,
That's
three
what I
girls.
figured. Okay. So you're a mom. Moms are hyper vigilant about keeping their kids well and healthy and everything. So, but when a mom hears that, A mom doesn't think, well, really, is cold and flu season here? I don't know. I mean, I thought it started on January the 1st, but maybe it's starting on November the 15th this year. There is no cold and flu season. So then what happens is mom then, that suggestion, operative word, suggestion has been planted. Then what mom does, what do mothers say to the kids once they buy the suggestion cold and flu season is here? What do moms do to their kids?
Get Tylenol.
Well, hang on. Prior to that, bundle up,
They
stay
worry.
warm.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
worry about them getting sick first.
And then what do they say to the kids?
You could get sick. It's flu season.
Exactly. And bundle up, stay warm, don't go outside, put your coat on. You're not supposed to have wet hair, all these kind of things. Now the mom is planting a suggestion to the kids. And then what happens? The kids get sick, and who can mom depend on? Children's Tylenol. Okay. So back to your
Ah,
question. The industry, I'm just going to just say it. People are not going to like this. The industry is set up to keep you sick because it's a capitalist society. And I'm a capitalist, but I would like to think I'm an ethical capitalist. But we live in a capitalist society, and it's all about profit and margins. And when I was in the hospital, I'm coming back to your question here. I had to be airlifted out of Cottonwood, which is near Sedona, to Phoenix. That
oh my
flight, thank God that I had a Blue Cross Blue Shield. And by the way, I don't recall any of it after the stroke. That bill was $99,000. That medical
Oh my
care
God.
that year was $600,000 in bills for the heart failure and the stroke. Fortunately, I had health insurance. Could I have paid for it? Yes, but fortunately, I did not have to because of insurance. Now, when I had the heart failure first, there was two cardiologists, a senior one and a junior one. And the junior one came into me and she said to me, well, as a result of having heart failure, these are going to be your lifetime conditions, A, B, C, D, E. In my mind, I'm like, BS, 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 not mine. And it was a little rough physically, but I had to manage my self-talk, manage my energy, stay committed to my outcomes, and stay self-integral. But I didn't buy any of it. Why? Because she was selling me a line of goods. She was selling me a line of goods based upon her own culturalization, which is what she's taught in medical school. Why? Because take our pharmaceuticals, take this, take that, make
Oh
us
my
rich.
God.
We keep you sick, we get rich, and you're going to be dependent upon us. Now, I want to add here, I've been through the ringer on this. If you need
Mm,
trauma care, you get it. I mean, if you're in an accident, you cut your finger off, you're feeling chest pains, you get your butt to a hospital. But what most people do is they depend upon Western medicine for long-term healing. And factually, there are no safe medications. There are no safe pharmaceuticals. They make people sicker. So we live in a culture that has people dependent on the pharmaceuticals. So I'm about to answer your question here. So I recognized I go back to the factory. The factory, guess what? Meaning the universe,
I know what
mind
you meant.
created everything in the universe, the doctors, the hospitals, me. If the universe created all that, and I created this from my own consciousness, if you're not watching, I'm pointing to my chest. If I've created this from my own consciousness, I can uncreate it.
Oof,
And I
so powerful.
uncreate it by going to the power, and that is knowing myself as soul. And that's not the practical answer, so to speak, but that's what's happening on the planet right now. My
That's
brother-in-law and I talked
amazing.
to, yeah, well, let me add here, the planet's waking up. I know hopefully I didn't, if I didn't answer, let me know.
You
I'll come
did.
back.
No, no, you more than answered the question. The last thing you said is the answer, and everything you said up into it is really important information. The last thing you said is the answer, which is if consciousness is able to create this, it can uncreate it. That is gorgeous.
Correct.
And everything else you said, I mean, my audience knows just because if they've been listening through the journey of life, years ago, we wound up moving to a house and we bought a house that we liked, and turned out we were neighbors with Bobby Kennedy and Cheryl Hines. We became really close friends of theirs.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much information about everything you just said. And it's been a really wild, cool journey that keeps me very curious and very interested. And it's really healthy to start asking really, really good questions about what is available to us and who we are and how much power there is within us to find our way back to healing. It's gorgeous what you said. And yeah, I could go on and on, but thank you for that.
Yeah.
I want to jump to a adjacent question, just because you started the conversation in a way, whether you know it or not. The conversation around manifestation comes up all the time, right? And
Right.
people throw words around and people mean it in different ways. If somebody comes to you and they want to have more capacity to manifest that which they want to experience, what do you point them toward to allow them to design the life that they want and manifest what it is that they would like to experience?
Beautiful question. And the way you ask it, you said if somebody wants to manifest something, what do you talk to them about and you use the word allow. Okay.
Yeah, how do you help them to design that and to do that?
Okay, let me go here first. I just did I did it for free, a money training called Money Wants Me. And that money needs you
Oh, I
more than
love
you
those
need money.
words.
Well,
Okay,
money
go ahead.
money needs you more than you need money. Let me go there for a moment. I used to have a gold coin in my desk. A friend owed me money. He just gave it back to me. I don't know where it is, but I also had like 500 bucks of silver coins on my desk. I don't know where they are. Anyway, people want money, but money in and of itself, I got a little money in my pocket. People want this. They want money. But this money in and of itself, I did a training in this room in my office and I taped this on the board for 2 weeks. And every day, as long as I never touched this money sat on that board. This money is of zero value until I give it value and use it. I am the power. Money is being used by the power. But what we as humans do, we've been conditioned to do, I give all of my power to the money and I become a slave to the money. I'm chasing the money. I want the money. And the money controls me. It makes me fearful. It makes me happy. It controls me backwards. This money is useless without me using it. This money needs me more than I need it. But the cultural frame is I need money, I need money, I need money. Now, where I was going, I
I love that. Oh my gosh, I've never heard it said that way. That was really, really, really powerful.
thank you. So, Rodin, you probably know Rodin's sculpture, The Thinker, right? So we can look at the thinker, but the thinker was created by a thinking being, meaning Rodin had consciousness coming through him, and the consciousness coming through him created the thinker. Does that make sense so far?
Sure.
Okay. So many of us will say, like um, David, the statue of David. Michelangelo has said that he just carved away everything that wasn't David, meaning it was
Yeah,
already in there. Okay.
sure.
So people search for abundance outside of themselves, but it's already in them. And then you use the word allowing. We shut it down by the context we created, meaning I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor, which is how I grew up. That was my context, and I shut down the flow that is already there. Because when Rodin sculpted the thinker, it was the consciousness that came through Rodin that had his hands moving, that had his mind moving, that literally kept him alive to sculpt the Rodin thinker. So I always go back to the Porsche again, go back to the manufacturer, not trying, because I can't manifest anything myself. First off, I mean this respectfully and anyone
Mhm.
listening. I grew up in the Baptist church. I work with a shaman. It's the opposite of the Baptist church. Okay. And in the Baptist church, I heard something in high school that I didn't agree with. And now I understand it because the preacher had dogmatized it. And he said, I can do nothing without God. But in Christianity, many people give that power to a deity, meaning a named deity. I understand now is that I can't do anything without consciousness. Consciousness is God. So I don't manifest anything. Consciousness manifests everything. It's just my job to tell consciousness what I desire. And when I tell consciousness clearly what I desire, it's consciousness's job to figure out how to deliver. What we try to do is we try to figure out, I want a brand new home. Okay, let me figure it out. It's not my job to figure it out. It's the universe's job. It's my job, that A word again, to allow and get out of the way and let the universe do its job. So, anyone listening, get out of your way. Stop trying. You don't manifest anything. You literally attract by allowing. So, you have to look at, what am I not doing? What fears are preventing me from allowing? Because those fears are my obstacles to the money that I want. And I know I'm going to interview you at some point. I wanted to ask you this question: is I find the reason most people won't allow is worthiness. They don't believe they're worth it. They become conditioned, and they've learned that they're not worth the abundance. Or if I have a lot of money, people are going to think XYZ about me.
Yeah.
And that's bad. And I don't want to be kicked out of the tribe, which is a survival mechanism. So therefore, I will just do without, but then I'll complain about it and attract more of it.
Yes, and that is, I believe, very congruent. I think that's most of what people hold on to, which keeps them blocked.
Yeah.
And there's so much wisdom to what you're saying. So tell this audience where they can buy your book and join you on your journey and learn from you. Where's the best place to do
Yeah.
that?
Well, first off, I have something for free for you guys. I created a program years ago, and I initially called it the Be to Have Challenge. And it's a 9-day program that literally teaches people what it means to be, because being is the genesis of all creation. You're going to create what you be, whatever that is. You can be angry in your marriage. What are you creating? You can be loving in your marriage. What are you creating? Everything comes from being. But a good friend of mine named Rich Sheffer, a big marketer, says, give it a different name. So I created the program, but most people are stuck. So we called it the Get Unstuck Challenge. I've sold thousands of these for $97. For your audience, they're free. For all of your listeners, because they're still here, if they want to learn how to be at a fundamental level so they can do, so they can have, download the Get Unstuck Challenge, no charge. Go to jimfortin.com/abundant. jimfortin.com/abundant. They can download the program, start working through it. It's 9 days. We track our metrics. We've got a 93% completion on that program. Of course, that's when people paid for it. So this is free. We don't tend to appreciate what is free, but it can change your life. My podcast
That's
also is
amazing.
top 1/10 of 1% like yours on iTunes. You can find me on Transform Your Life from the Inside Out on iTunes. And the book, believe it or not, I don't know. I should know that, right? We're not on Amazon yet. We're going to be. We'll be on Amazon next month, I believe. Right now, we were just using it for an internal marketing tool. But if you want to connect with me, I have a free community. It's a membership site that's free. It's app.jimfortin.com. App.jimfortin.com. It's free community. There's no charge. We drop content in there, new training agendas, things that we're doing. It's all dropped in there, and it's a great place to stay connected.
I am so jazzed about this conversation. I'm taking so much away. You were so generous. You poured so much of your heart and your soul into this, and I
Thank you.
really appreciate you. So we will send everybody the links, and I have no doubt that people are going to go and soak you up if they're not already doing so. Thank you.
It's an
Thank you so
honor.
much.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. And I'm living my Dharma, you're living your Dharma. And hopefully in our time together, something resonated with somebody in some way, that they will start making their life better and the world a better place. So thank you for everyone listening, and sending you a big hug, and thank you to you.
Thank you so much.